The latest tech.
I'm Alexa. I can answer your questions.
Interviews.
And we are evolving, and we are seeing an amazing opportunity that is happening.
Accessibility.
Accessibility is one of our core values. It's even a part of our mission statement.
This is Double Tap TV.
Welcome to a very special edition of Double Tap TV, our annual CES edition. We hope you'll join us for the next hour, and we've got a lot to cover from this year's Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. As always, if you want to get involved, email feedback@ami.ca. Of course, you could follow us on Twitter, which is @DoubleTapCanada. And don't forget the hashtag, which is AskDoubleTap, which kind of brings those messages to our attention a lot quicker so we can get to you a lot quicker. I am Mark Aflalo, joined each and every single week by Stephen Scott. Stephen, 3 years covering CES on this show. Last year virtual, the year before, infamously, you were stranded alone in Vegas. Thankfully, we got a camera crew out to meet you there. But it feels like an eternity covering this event, doesn't it?
It does. It feels like it should be the CCES, the COVID Consumer Electronics Show. That's how we've been covering it over the past 2 years, now 3 years. It's a fantastic event. And, one thing that hasn't stopped, despite all of the challenges that have been flung in its way, is innovation. There's still huge amounts of innovation. And it seems like every single time we talk about CES, the number of pixels on a television increases by 4,000. Every single time.
Yeah, it's kind of nuts, when you think about the innovation. Now, this year, Stephen, we're going to be covering a lot of ground on this show and talking to some great companies. And we're going to be talking to a lot of these companies in greater depth on future shows. So it's a lot of great ways for you to get introduced to some of these brands. Now, some of these companies we've spoken to before, we're going to find out what's new, and some that are actually new to the mix. So I hope you're going to get strapped in and enjoy the show. Now, before that, Stephen, I got to ask you a question because you were there a couple of years ago. You were on the show floor. You were among the masses, and surprisingly didn't get sick. But what was the vibe? What was the feeling of CES? Like, how did you feel being on that show floor with all those people?
It was an unbelievable experience, and it's nothing like I've ever experienced before. And I really look forward to the time that we can all get back and do it again, especially you and I together would be brilliant. I think for me, what really stood out was the amount of technology that is out there that's being innovated, and it's sometimes very small technologies, very simple tech. I remember talking to a guy about lids for Tupperware boxes and, smart lids for those Tupperware boxes. I mean, it's such a simple thing. But, that up to the 8K TVs or the projectors on the wall or the amazing technology we saw that allows for a hotel, for example, to have a concierge that can speak in any language. It's a virtual hologram-like image that you talk to, and you walk into a hotel and they know who you are and they immediately know your likes, dislikes, language, everything else. The technology is incredible, and it actually, it is quite overwhelming as an event because there's so much of it. But the technology is incredible, and it is literally mind-blowing, the technology that's there.
Stephen, let's set the stage for 2022, and let's start by you welcoming our first guest on the show. Karen Chupka is the Executive Vice President of CES, and she's the Senior Vice President of the Consumer Technology Association. That's the company that runs CES each and every single year. Karen, thank you so much for being with us this week.
Well, thank you for having me here. Excited to be here.
Obviously, this is a very different event coming from an event last year where it was all virtual. You decided this year to go back to an in-person event. How difficult was that decision to make and implement?
I think everybody is so excited to be back and was so excited to see each other for the first time. It's been almost 2 years now since the industry has gotten together and gotten to experience all the great new technologies that have rolled out. And so, we were so lucky to have people coming from all over the world and being able to congregate with us and really get to see the latest innovations.
Karen, what's the hot topic this year at CES? Every year there seems to be a focus, whether it's, electric vehicles or autonomous vehicles or the smart home. What was it this year?
It's interesting because I think we saw leading into the show that there was so much talk and so much around electric vehicles. We had actually over 200 companies exhibiting at CES 2022 just in automotive alone. And, there's just so much new breakthrough technologies on electric vehicles. So that was definitely, a big trending theme that we saw at the show. Another one of the key areas that we saw a lot, just even over the past year and a half, due to the pandemic, is just in digital health. So many breakthroughs with wearables and, self-testing and just telehealth even, that was also kind of another new and breakthrough area for us. And then of course, home, smart home technologies. Everybody was investing in their homes. And so again, just another area where there are just so many new and different types of technologies that people can put into their house.
Now, Karen, I know you're tired. You've come off an incredibly busy event. I'm sure you're on a high, and it's going to take a while to come down from that. But when do you start planning for 2023?
It's pretty immediate. Because what happens is everybody's so energized in the industry that then you come back from the show and they already want to start talking about new ideas and new things that they want to think about for next year. So it's actually kind of, it's sometimes a little bit hard because you do want to take that breath and that moment and just take a beat. But you know what? Innovation happens always. So we kind of dive right back into it. And a lot of times we're also just so excited because of what we got to see and experience. And it just really helps you sort of leap into maybe, what are the possibilities of what's next. And that's the fun part, is we get to kind of think about and start plotting what's next soon after we get home from the show in January.
Karen Chupka, thank you so much for being with us this week.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for covering the show. And I guess I can say I look forward to talking to you again at CES 2023, right?
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Karen. Stephen, let's dive in. We've got a lot of ground to cover this week, and we're going to do so in this 1 hour special here on Double Tap TV. We've got our friends over at Belkin lined up and a lot of other great companies, so do stick around. It is Double Tap TV. He is Stephen Scott. I am Mark Aflalo, and this is our special 2022 CES edition, and we'll be right back.
For more great Double Tap TV content, visit ami.ca/doubletap. This is Double Tap TV.
Welcome back to our CES 2022 edition of Double Tap TV. Thank you for being here. Of course, if you want to get involved, feedback at ami.ca. And if you're not following us on Twitter, you better get it. What are you waiting for? It's at Double Tap Canada. And don't forget to reach out with the hashtag, which is AskDoubleTap. I am Mark Aflalo with Stephen Scott. Stephen, electric cars, the smart home. These are themes we've seen over the past couple of years, but I think they are themes that we're going to see continue for the next couple of years at least.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it moves away from being that fiction. Because sometimes when you go to CES, I mean, I've been there once and I've certainly followed it for many years, you tend to see technologies that, are essentially what's coming or potentially coming, prototypes, essentially, of what might be coming. And of course, that's where we get the idea of the flying car and the flying taxi and all that. But that's becoming reality, and that's the difference. This year and years to come, we're going to see these become normal and normalized around all of us. That it'll be a case of, another flying car, whatever. Because that's where we're heading, right? That's where it's going, that all this technology is starting to come to life and be part of our everyday.
Let's stick on the ground for this next one, okay? It's a packed show here.
Okay.
So we're going to bring on our next guest, talk about their latest products. Cassie Panetta is a global communications manager for Belkin International. Cassie, thank you for being here with us this week.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here. Happy New Year.
Okay, so you've obviously got lots of products on show at CES, which is great, and lots of products we're going to learn about through the year. But I do know that you've been working on a lot of products that are HomeKit compatible, meaning they work with Apple products and Apple Siri and all of that, which is fantastic news, right? I'm guessing one of the new products you've got, the Wiimote doorbell that you've been showing off at CES, I'm guessing that's going to be HomeKit compatible too?
Yes, indeed. It's exciting. As you had mentioned, a lot of our products most recently are launching exclusively with Apple HomeKit. This is done intentionally just to kind of eliminate the need for a third-party app. It really eliminates all the headache of having to do all the updates through the app and make sure your app is up to date and so on and so forth. So it's more secure, it's easier, it's just wonderful. So the doorbell, let's talk a little bit more about that. You're all familiar with Wimo's like lighting solutions and smart plugs, but we're really excited to expand our portfolio into home security solutions, beginning with the doorbell. The smart video doorbell offers 178-degree field of view, which I believe is the largest in the market right now. It also has a 4-megapixel high-resolution camera with enhanced night vision and optimal zoom clarity, just to provide users into more insight into what's happening around the home. It works exclusively with Apple HomeKit Secure Video, so it's easy to set up and manage through the Home app on your iPhone, your iPad, or Mac. And then, of course, with HomeKit Secure Video, it also has a face recognition feature to let users know if specific people are at the door based on people tagged in the Photos app or identified in the Home app. So if I have my sister tagged in my Photos app and she rings the doorbell, my phone will notify me that she's at the door if she drops by.
Now, Cassie, I've tried a lot of these doorbells, okay? When it comes to the smart home, I think I'm a good guinea pig. I'm probably a very good beta tester, by the way, anybody out there who wants to send me some stuff. I found that the biggest thing that separates these doorbells apart from each other is really the speed or the time it takes from hitting that button to the notification getting to your device. What's your experience been with the Wemo one?
Yes, exactly. I think that's the number one grievance with doorbells right now, is that they feature two-way talk, right? But by the time you're talking to the person that's at your door, they're already gone.
Yeah, of course, it's network dependent and things like that. But when are we going to see this product available and what's the price point?
The availability is it's on pre-order today in the US and Canada on Belkin.com. And it's priced at $249.99 US.
Cassie, before I let you go, you guys are promoting something interesting, which is the new unified smart home protocol that everybody's going to be using, and that's called Matter. Can you explain that a bit more, like what Matter is and how it kind of fits into everything?
Okay, so Matter is it's a new standard designed for the future of the smart home. It will pretty much allow all Matter-enabled devices to seamlessly work with one another, regardless of platform. So you don't have to worry about if it's only HomeKit or if it's only Google or Amazon. You'll literally just be able to buy a smart plug from the store, plug it in, and it works just seamlessly. So that's the future of the smart home. I think Matter is going to be a huge conversation this year moving forward. So our suite of products that you're familiar with, we got the dimmer, the light switch, and the smart plug. We're going to offer a new version of these that have Matter over Thread. So yeah, that's probably something that I'll tease right now while I have you. I'll definitely look out for, I think the Thread products are going to roll out Q1. And then once Matter is officially available, you could just update via firmware.
Brilliant. That is Cassie Pineda. Thank you for joining us from Belkin International. Stephen, moving on, American Printing House for the Blind. Now, we had this gentleman on last week a little bit to celebrate World Braille Day and Louis Braille's birthday. Tell us a little bit about the company before we bring on our guest.
Well, this is an organization, a not-for-profit out of America. Clearly, it's in the name, right? But, this is an organization that is all about supporting blind and partially sighted people, in particular, blind and partially sighted children. And they've done a huge amount of work recently around technology and working with partners to try and create new tech that can enable young children to learn Braille, for example, in a really super accessible and low-cost way.
Well, joining us today is Greg Stillson, Head of Global Technology Innovation at the American Printing House for the Blind. Greg, welcome back to Double Tap TV. Thank you for being here. I know it must be a busy time at CES.
Oh, thanks so much for having me.
Greg, why is it so important for you to be at CES as essentially a specialist provider of services and technology and all of that? Why is that an important stop in your calendar this year?
It's a great question, Stephen. I think over the last, I'm trying to remember how many years it's been, but it hasn't been that many where there's been a real focus on accessibility. A lot of accessibility also in the startup world as well, but CES has really put a section aside of their exhibit hall focusing on companies that are focused on accessibility, and that's accessibility whether it's for people with visual impairments or accessibility in general, and so that's really where APH has become sort of involved, right? We never used to go to CES before that. That was really a thing, and so for us, this is a great opportunity to really showcase and bring into the mainstream light what the value is of accessibility tech and tech that's really focused on leveling the playing field.
Okay, so what did you show off this year then, Greg? What was on display when people visited you at CES?
At APH, we've really spent a lot of time showcasing the Mantis, and I think that this has been a great opportunity to really bring Braille displays into the mainstream because, at CES you see so many different iPhone accessories and keyboards and docking stations and chargers and all this kind of stuff, right? And it's really hard for the mainstream sometimes to wrap their head around what a refreshable Braille display is and what it does. And really, when we look at how to kind of bring Braille into the mainstream, what better way to do it than a Bluetooth keyboard that has a Braille display embedded in it? And it's something that we think is really really has drawn in some excitement because people can understand what it is. As soon as I show them a Mantis, and I have it paired with an iPad or something like that, they immediately get it. They're like, oh yeah, I have a Bluetooth keyboard for my iPad. And then we just walk through how you control the iPad or the computer and see the output in Braille. So we've showcased that, and then also the Code Jumper kit is really one of our hot items as well. With his, I would say as focused in as the STEM world is on coding in the classroom. Code Jumper is another one that really gets people interested and draws them into understanding how does a blind student actually learn those early coding skills. Last year we released the Android version of Code Jumper, so it's not just a Windows application anymore. You can pair a Code Jumper kit now with an Android tablet, or even some of the specialized devices like the Braille Note Touches or the HIMS Braille Sense that are running Android as well. Yeah, we are showcasing, or we've been showcasing that as well. So those are two really big things that we've been focusing on a lot. And then we've got some early childhood Braille instructional kits as well that we've been showcasing.
Greg, thanks for joining us again this week. We're going to have you on again real soon because we want to dive into this way deeper than the couple minutes we have here on this CES show. And, of course, thank you for being on last week talking all about the future of Braille on our celebration of Louis Braille's birthday and World Braille Day. When we come back on this CES special edition of Double Tap TV, another company in the accessibility sector and one of our favorite manufacturers for the Mac. Stick around, it is Double Tap TV.
For more great Double Tap TV content, visit ami.ca/doubletap. This is Double Tap TV.
We are back on Double Tap TV, our CES 2022 edition, 1 hour long. Hope you got your seatbelt on and you're on for the ride. I am Mark Aflalo with Stephen Scott by my side. Stephen, accessibility always on show at CES, normally has its own little wing back in the corner somewhere, as you could imagine it if you were there, but this year a little bit smaller. So one of the companies we're going to talk to next on the show is a company called Biped, and they've got a really cool product that you're going to dive into with their co-founder, Maël Fabian.
Maël, thanks for being here.
Maël, tell us about Biped. How did this idea start, and actually, what is it exactly?
Yep. So Biped is, in a sense, an AI copilot for blind and visually impaired people. So the roots of Biped were lying in the innovations that happen currently in the field of autonomous vehicles. And the way those technologies are evolving on the streets just made me think, well, there has to be a way that can be applied to pedestrians and more specifically to visually impaired people. Because the vehicle's making decisions at a very high frame rate, and it can predict what's going to happen in a couple of seconds in advance, and that would of course increase safety for visually impaired people when they walk in the streets. So Biped is a small harness that you put on your shoulders. It has a set of cameras that capture the environment with 170 degrees of field of view around you. And after that, it's basically replicating what an autonomous vehicle does, but at the pedestrian level. So it's detecting, tracking, and predicting trajectories a few seconds in advance. And it's providing immersive 3D audio feedback. So you use bone conduction headphones typically, and you would have sounds that are coming from a specific direction with a specific volume that just make you feel, okay, there's a car here that's coming towards me, and there's a pedestrian there that's turning right, for example. That's the type of information that you're able to get, and it also does obstacle detection for you, so that you can you're in a sense protected from head to toes.
Okay, so let's geek out on this a bit, if you don't mind, Mel, because this sounds absolutely fantastic to me, and particularly because what you've done is you've taken that obstacle detection, which a lot of other products have started to bring in, and you've fused it with artificial intelligence, that AI, and that's really cool, and that's something that is part of your product, right? And that's what makes it different, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. What we are aiming for, in a sense, is environmental awareness. Rather than just knowing there's something there, you want to know what is it and where is it going, and does it have a risk to come in my direction, to hit me? And so you can anticipate, in a sense. So it's not only knowing there's a bike, but it's knowing there's a bike that's coming in your direction. So you hear the sound coming continuously. So we're really trying to merge what can be done, for example, in object detection and object tracking and artificial intelligence nowadays. There's a couple of apps that can do that, but merging those two, and we're adding a layer of navigation also, so that we have just a companion app where people can just tell where they want to go, and by having everything, we aim really to have this all-in-one approach where ranging from 15 centimeters, like the closest obstacles, to 15 kilometers. If you want to go quite far, we can allow you to navigate quite freely.
You know, I was reading, Mel, on your website about the product and reading about the challenges that a lot of people have in getting out there. And I totally get this. As someone who's, as visually impaired as I am, going out for a walk is not a particularly enjoyable experience. Using the white cane to try and navigate obstacles and dealing with cracked roads and pavements and everything else. It's a real challenge when you're visually impaired getting out just for a simple walk, right? But, what I like about your product is it's not an all-in-one solution. It's actually something that's separate from the white cane. And in fact, even with a guide dog, it complements the white cane, or indeed a guide dog, I guess.
Yes, it does. There's the tactile information given by the white cane remains, I think, essential at many levels, because it also informs you on the type of ground you're walking on. And if you're walking from concrete to grass, for example, that's something you might want to know in advance. And that's something we can detect, but the aim is not to have overwhelming audio feedback. So you need to dedicate one channel to what it's good at. So the white cane can still be used in complement. The guide dog can even still be used in complement to what Biped's doing, because the guide dog's never going to tell you what object's in front of you. It's not going to give you that environmental awareness. It's very good at guiding you, but it's not. It won't be able to tell you what are the things around you. Where is where is that bike located? Where is that car located, for example? So we essentially try to bring all of that together on top of what's currently existing, and having this simple claim that we're just raising or improving environmental awareness of blind users compared with what they currently use as a device.
Maël, Fabien, thank you so much for being here. The product, guys, at home is Biped. Biped.ai is where you can learn more about that. Thank you again for being here. We've got more, if you can possibly imagine it, on the CES 2022 special. Again, if you guys want to get involved at home, feedback at ami.ca. And of course, on Twitter, we're at DoubleTapCanada with the hashtag AskDoubleTap. We'll be back in a moment with another incredible guest. Stick around.
For more great Double Tap TV content, visit ami.ca/doubletap. This is Double Tap TV.
We are back on our special CES edition of Double Tap TV. Thank you guys for being with us. Hope your seatbelt's on, you're strapped in, and you're ready for another great guest. I am Mark Aflalo with Stephen Scott by my side. Stephen, another great company showcasing at CES this year is Vispero, and they make so many cool products, but I know them more because you keep talking about JAWS.
That's right, yeah, the infamous screen reader that so many blind and partially sighted people use. Well, Matt Attier is with us from Vispero, and in fact is the man who is the guy behind the software JAWS and one of the main people there at Vispero. Great to have you with us here on Double Tap TV this week, Matt. Tell us why showcasing at CES, which is a very mainstream event, why that's important to you as a specialist accessibility company.
So one of the things that is great about CES is it gets us into the tech world, and most people would think we're there because JAWS is one of our top brands, but we're there for lots of our products. So we have video magnifiers. Over my shoulder I have one called the Optolite Go or Clearview Go, and products like that, we use lots of manufacturers of goods components, and so by being there and working with those vendors, not only showing off our technology, but also finding the next tech that can go into these video magnifiers, the OCR devices, the wearables, the braille displays, whatever it may be. We always think of CES as the latest TV or the robots or the vacuums and the radios and headsets and microphones and stuff like that. And it's all of those things. But being able to work with those kinds of companies, as well as I've been there now, I don't know, maybe 6-7 years or something like that, minus last year. And it's fascinating to see the people who come by and say, my parent uses your products. And I'm not just talking JAWS or Zoom Text. I'm talking, the video magnifiers and other devices as well. And when you think about the three brands who make those devices, Enhanced Vision, Optelec, and Freedom Scientific, there's a wide range of people worldwide who use those devices, from screen sizes of 4 inches all the way up to 27 inches, from cameras that are built into the monitor, to cameras that are underneath, or cameras out to the side, depending on cameras that focus on a chalkboard in a classroom. So there's such a variety of those cameras and reaches for people's needs that we don't go and set up like we do at CSUN. We don't have 3 big, huge monster booths, and we don't bring 20 staff and things like that. We're a skinny staff of like 4 people. We do it, either a 10 by 10 or a 10 by 20, depending on the year and the population that's going to be there that year. And so, but it's about reaching the community. There's a big focus at CTA or CES by CTA on accessibility and people, disabilities and people who are aging. And I'm a vice chairman of the foundation, CTA Foundation Board. And so we like to spend time walking around looking at other tech that may be of value to people who are blind or low vision or other disabilities or people who are aging.
And let's not forget the other product you do alongside JAWS, which is Zoom Text. Essentially, that product is for people who are visually impaired, a bit maybe more vision than someone who would need a full-blown screen reader. You've got magnification in there, you've got speech as well in Zoom Text. What's new in version 2022 of that?
So one of the things we've done is enhance something called the quick access bar. So back in the spring, we created the quick access bar, but it was very introductory. It was basically you would get the commands you wanted on there, and you could add and remove commands, but there was no search capability. And so now we've added the search capability, and the idea behind this is you could go in and click a button and type in what feature you want to add to the bar, and it brings up a list of 6 to 8 features you can choose from and add those to the quick access bar, similar to a JAWS user may use command search, but it's driven for Zoom Text. And then with Fusion, it pulls in both Zoom Text commands and JAWS commands into the search. So if you're the intent of this quick access bar is to help people transition from one product to the next. And if you're a Zoom now using Fusion, you're like, well, where are all the JAWS commands? And so if you could help put those in the quick access bar, you can speed up your learning curve for finding features like speech history or list of links or whatever that may be that you don't know the keystroke for.
Matt, we're going to have you on again because there's so much to talk about. But, in the meantime, can you tell people if they want more information, more resources, where they can go?
The best place is freedomscientific.com/training. And you're going to find tons of resources in there, from teaching, Teacher's Corner to, they may not call it the Teacher's Corner. I wanted to call it the Teacher's Corner. The podcasts, the webinars, we're constantly putting tips out on different platforms. So you could see those on different websites and application, places out there where you can read a tip on how to do something. And so, we constantly push that stuff out into the social media platforms and be looking for those.
That is Matt Ater from Vispero, of course, makers of such products as JAWS, through the company Freedom Scientific.
Stephen, have you been finding the latest version of JAWS is a big improvement? What have you been finding in terms of your hands-on experience with it?
Oh, I love it. I mean, I'm just continually seeing new developments, and I think my own development in learning JAWS is kind of going along as well. So, I'm learning all these new great things, like, for example, that layer that Matt was talking about, being able to split the audio so that I can have JAWS in one ear and my Teams calls in the other. It's just so much easier. Now, that's a huge deal, because that's something that, as Matt said, you would have to previously, have like 2 or 3 different sound cards attached to your machine to achieve. You don't have to do that anymore. So it's a brilliant feature, and we're seeing more and more features coming in. A lot of back-end work going on to make the product more sustainable and stable, but also, of course, a huge amount of work going in because they've had to work with Windows 11 this time round and deal with all the changes that have come with that. But yeah, as always, a great product. Great to hear from Matt.
We'll be back in a moment with another incredible guest. Stick around.
For more great Double Tap TV content, visit ami.ca/doubletap. This is Double Tap TV.
We're back on this 1-hour special edition of Double Tap TV. Thank you guys so much for being with us. Of course, if you want to get involved, feedback at ami.ca is our email address. On Twitter, don't forget to follow us at Double Tap Canada with the hashtag AskDoubleTap. So we're continuing the conversation as we do this hour-long edition of our CES show, as we do each and every single year. And we're going to talk about website accessibility, because many websites, just aren't accessible for so many people with different disabilities. But there's one company displaying at CES this year that is aiming to improve that, and that company is called Facility. And with us now is Letitia Longfoise. She's the managing partner for Facility in the US. Letitia, thank you so much for being with us on Double Tap TV this week.
Thank you so much for having me.
So tell us all about the company. Tell us what Facility is all about. What does the company do?
So Facility was born in France in 2014 in a communication agency where an intern casually at lunchtime said, what if we could make all websites accessible and easier to navigate for people with special needs? Well, that's a good idea. Let's think about it for a minute. And next thing you know, it was like a few years of R&D. And in 2018, Facility, as we know it, kind of know it today because it keeps evolving, was born. Today, we have about 1 million users. I think we're going to reach the bar of 1 million this weekend because right now we're missing 1,000 users. So if you are listening, please use the program so that we can have our 1 million users, and 500 websites are equipped with the solution.
Letitia, as I mentioned off the top when I introduced you, making the web accessible is about everybody. It's not just people who are blind. A lot of people have different types of access needs. And you guys attempt to cater to all of them, correct?
Absolutely, and that's a great question that we keep thinking about it internally with the team. So basically, as you said, it's across special needs. So it can be like low vision, imprecise movement, for example, because I broke my wrist when I was skateboarding last weekend, or because I have Parkinson's disease. At the end of the day, it's the same issue. Can also be a cognitive impairment, like dyslexia, as you said. But more and more, we are realizing that it doesn't really matter. I mean, we are not even using the word disability anymore, because what we are gearing towards is just good design. Design that is easy to use, whether you have a disability or you don't. I don't have any vision issue right now. I will probably in the future, but right now I don't. However, I almost always have my phone and my computer on dark mode because it's just more comfortable for my eyes, So why should I wait to have cataract to use it? Like today I don't have cataract. However, it's more comfortable, so I'm using it.
So how exactly does it work? Are you a platform that people build websites on, or are you advising companies on how to make their existing websites more accessible?
No, basically we work on existing websites, and we don't work on the core code of the website. We work on the CSS pages, which is on the way your website is displayed on the screens. So that's why it's very fast to adapt. For a website, it's just a line of code to cut and paste in their header. And for the users, there is basically nothing to do except configuring your profile. You don't have to download anything. You obviously don't have to pay for anything. You don't have to give any confidential information that you don't want to give out,
Letitia, we hear a lot from people, and overlays aren't the most popular way to make websites accessible. Some companies are employing companies to use them on their own websites, mainly to avoid lawsuits and to keep compliant. That's not what you do, right?
Yes. I'm not totally against overlays. I think it's also one way of tackling a situation. However, we are not an overlay. We don't use artificial intelligence. Everything is done manually on the CSS pages that we reconstruct, because what we have noticed is that the overlays usually degrade the website, and the design is less good or less perfect when you apply the overlay. And don't forget, Facility was born in a communication agency. So all the people at Facility are fanatic about good designs and beautiful designs. And there is no way we are going to degrade any website. If you look at the list of our clients, we have a lot of luxury brands using Facility, which is another proof that we are not going to degrade anything from the website, because those brands, they really don't want to have like a sub-website for a certain category of the people and the good website, the beautiful website for the other category of people. They want a fantastic website for everybody, and that's what we do.
So let's use me as an example. What do I do today if I want to make my website accessible? What's the first step?
If you're a client and you come to me, the first thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to do an audit of your website, not to tell you how accessible it is or how accessible it is not, but to tell you if we could install Facility on your website. I'm not a technical person, so I'm not going to go into too many details, but I know, for example, that if your website utilizes the technology Flash, it's not going to work because Facility is not going to be compatible. What I understand is that nobody uses Flash anymore, so it's not really an issue. But there are like a few technologies like that make Facility that are not compatible with Facility. To be honest with you, Stephen, in 5 years of talking to companies, I've never had one prospect or client whose website was not compatible with Facility, but it does exist. So I'm going to have my technical team do this audit. At the end of the audit, we're going to tell you, yes, everything is fine. You do have a lot of colors, but we're going to treat them all, or you do have this and that, but it's not a problem. And it's going to take that amount of days for our team to work on every single page and make it accessible. So at that stage, either you're going to say, yes, go ahead and do it, we're interested, or you're going to tell me, no, maybe later, maybe in 2022. Fine, but if you're interested, then our team is going to start working. And after this amount of days that I told you was needed, I'm going to be able to send you a tag that your team, your web team, is going to have to cut and paste in the header of each pages of the website that you want to make accessible.
That is Laetitia Longfoise from Facility. Guys, thank you so much for being with us. If you're still with us during this hour-long CES 2022 edition of Double Tap TV. Again, if you want to get involved, don't forget that email address, feedback@ami.ca. And of course, if you're not already following us on Twitter, it is @DoubleTapCanada, and use the hashtag, which is AskDoubleTap. We're going to take a big breather and come back and wrap up the show.
For more great Double Tap TV content, visit ami.ca/doubletap. This is Double Tap TV.
Back to wrap up our CES 2022 edition of Double Tap TV. Thank you guys for being with us. If you stuck around the entire time, I know I'm exhausted. I am Mark Aflalo with Stephen Scott. Stephen, you feeling good? This was a packed show, but I think that we can spread the love a little bit and maybe bring some people back and talk a little bit more in depth about their products and learn more than just a couple questions we can ask them in a packed 1 hour show.
Yeah, I think for me is, virtual is actually better for me, right? Because when I was at CES, I remember how exhausted I was then trying to get around and realizing that, to get from one interview to the other, I had to take, a bus, a train, and walk for about half an hour in amongst it all as well. This is so much easier. You just click a button on Zoom and suddenly you're in. It's much easier.
So many, exhibitors this year talking all about battery technology, about electric vehicles, autonomous vehicles, and the smart home. This is something that started a couple years ago that keeps just getting more and more refined as we get through the years. And I think it's something we're going to see really kind of ramp up over the next couple years. Maybe we'll have some cool electronic devices to walk us from booth to booth to save those legs and make it a little bit less tiring. But over the next several years, we're going to see these electric vehicles really take form. I mean, lots of companies announcing new offerings, whether it's the BMWs and the Fords and the Hondas of the world. Lots of really cool ones coming up. What are you looking forward to in the world of transportation? Because I know we've always talked about this dream of, being able to summon that autonomous vehicle to take you places. How far off do you think we are from that?
It doesn't feel like we're far off. I mean, the technology certainly is here, right? I mean, if you've got a Tesla right now, you've pretty much got that capability built in. It's just not enabled at this point. Essentially, what's slowing everything down is regulation in countries. Once the laws are in place, once the road work is in place, then we can start using this technology. It's one of these cart before the horse situations. We have the cart, we just need the horse now to pull it along. And I think that's where I'm really excited about this. And I think we'll start seeing it most likely in taxi transport. I think we might see it in some public transportation as well. We already see it on the rail. Here in the UK, we have that already. Funny story, when they first introduced the Docklands Light Railway in London, nobody would get on it because they were terrified about this strange train that didn't have a driver. So they actually employed someone to sit in the cab. They couldn't do anything because it was all electric, right? It did it itself. But, the guy sat there and everyone felt better, so they got on the train. Totally bizarre. But I think we're getting past that point. I think we're getting past the fear. And I think the past couple of years have given us a chance to have the conversations about the value of this. And of course, there's huge ethical questions about how this technology will work and how it will behave. But ultimately, for someone who's blind, this is going to be a massive improvement in the world of being able to get around independently. And I mean that in the most sincerest of ways, because for someone like me, getting in a car and just nipping to Mickey D's or KFC or whatever it might be for a quick chow down, I don't get that opportunity. I've got to involve someone else. Someone has to take me. I've got to get a taxi driver who's willing to do it. Do they want to have a stinking food in their car? Probably not. So you have to have that argument. When you live with a visual impairment, and I think most disabled people would agree with this to some degree, you don't live alone. You don't really get the chance to be anonymous or do things on your own, and certainly not spontaneously. You're always reliant on other people. Everything involves someone else. And I think having the ability to just summon a vehicle, get in it and go would be amazing. I would love to be able to just buy my own car and have my own personal vehicle that can do all this. But frankly, I don't care. If I can get in a vehicle and not have to speak to another human being until I get to the store, I'm cool with that. And it would make such a difference to many people's lives. The key thing is going to be how affordable this technology will be. As in, how affordable will the taxi service be? Will it be a subscription service like we're so used to paying $6, $7 per month for something? Will it be the same with this? I don't know, but I think that is where we're going to see it start. And it may even get to the stage where people don't buy cars anymore. They just literally subscribe to a vehicle.
Earlier we had Cassie Pineda on from Belkin, and she talked about Matter, which is the unified smart home system. Finally, we're getting all together. Like, everybody's coming together, whether it's Google, whether it's a Zigbee, whether it's Apple, and we're going to have a unified smart home experience. I'm really looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to all these devices in my house being cross-compatible. I'm hoping that works with the smart speakers as well. I'm hoping it can be done with a software update. We don't need new hardware, but my fingers are not crossed for that one. So that is something that I'm definitely looking forward to. And, who knows what happens with these autonomous vehicles. I'm still waiting for those flying cars. You mentioned Back to the Future earlier. They promised the flying car this should have been 5 years ago. What is going on?
I'd love a DeLorean. I would love that. That would do me. Flying DeLoreans, I don't care about going back in time. I'm quite happy in the present, thank you. But as long as I can get to the shops or get to McDonald's, I'm cool with that.
But preferably in a flying DeLorean.
But even better in a flying DeLorean. Yeah, it certainly would get you over the drive-thru quicker, wouldn't it?
Before the show goes off the rails, thank you guys for being here. If you've got something to let us know, if you enjoyed the show, let us know. Feedback at ami.ca, of course, the email address. And if you're not already following us on Twitter, it is at @DoubleTapCanada with the hashtag, which is AskDoubleTap. On behalf of all our guests, of course, you can check out our Twitter feed for information about them and Stephen Scott. I am Mark Aflalo. Thank you guys for being with us on the CES 2022 edition of Double Tap TV.
Hosted and written by Mark Aflalo and Stephen Scott. Editing and motion graphics, Jordan Steves. Integrated described video specialist, Ron Rickford. Coordinating producer, Jennifer Johnson. Director of production, Kara Nye. Director programming, Brian Perdue. VP content development and programming, John Melville. President and CEO, David Arrington. Copyright 2022, Accessible Media, Inc.